So last weekend, I drove across town to attend the last skirmish event of the season at Going Gaming in Portland, Oregon, USA. And while I had a less than stellar performance on Velda, there were 17 players at the event, and not tooting our own horns here, a pretty competitive crowd. And do you guys know what won? That's right, going 7-1 on the day, Rhinar, piloted by this guy. That's right, yes kids, Rhinar, piloted by Jacob Willard. And he's here with us today, teaching us the ways of intimidation. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey everyone, and welcome to Go Again, a fabulous cast here on Dice Commando. I'm Andrew, here today with Jacob Willard, who took home the skirmish win last week, if that's right. Rhinar in Troutdale, Oregon, USA. How's it going, my man? How are you doing?
Goes well, man. It goes well.
Goes well. It goes again, maybe even? Goes again? All right. Fair enough. So I do want to give a shout out, especially because we're talking Troutdale, I want to give a shout out to my boy Travis over at Fab Foundry. He's a great LGS owner, great single seller. If you guys want to go and check him out, support an LGS and one of the OGs, you can use the link below. It actually gives me a little kickback, costs you nothing, helps me keep my cardboard crack addiction going, and supports a great LGS who does great things.
Oh yeah, they're great over there.
Absolutely, Travis is the man, and there's lots of the men, but Travis is like the man of the men. So there we go, and he can throw a disc. He can throw discs and he can throw dice pretty well. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that story's great. It was pretty essential to me getting into the game. Stumbled into there, kind of knowing Fab and getting to talk to someone who loves Flesh and Blood. Really was like, okay, this game's serious. People really love it. So shouts out to Travis for sharing the love of the game.
That's right. And again, from the very beginning. So yeah, well said, sir. All right, so man, thanks for joining us tonight. So before we get into this, what's your history of Fab? How long have you been playing? What's your gaming background? What's your story?
So I have been playing Flesh and Blood since the tail end of Aria. So I think that's like March-ish of this year. So not too long. And I have played trading card games forever. Never really forever, yeah, literally since I was a kid. I was talking the other day about how one of my oldest memories is learning how to play Pokemon TCG. So it literally has been forever for me, but never seriously into Magic. Always playing like the alternative games. I like the off-theme track kind of games, and then took a break really into board games. And then just wanted to dive back in and found Flesh and Blood, and it was, to say, perfect to align with my way of thinking about card games is an understatement. It nailed it. So,
so that's interesting. I'm curious. So, in your way of thinking about card games, so is that a mathematical approach, a combo approach? What does that mean to you?
So to me, I really like games and card games specifically that are about like hand management or utilization, and this idea of like stringing together long lines. And I prefer that over something like building a board state, which we have in Flesh and Blood now, but I don't think is, that's not the core.
Or do we, now that she has LL'd out as of about 4 hours ago as of this interview, right?
That's fresh news.
No, I mean we're just joking. No, your statement is solid. I'm just joking because that's exciting. The Wicked Witch is dead, boys.
Yeah, no, I mean that's huge. It's huge. I've never been a fan of playing against Prism. It's always difficult. I'm a Briar main, so it should be easy. But playing my buddy Dylan, he's been on Briar since we started, so I've always had a tough matchup into him with all of his Briar knowledge.
Oh, so Dylan is your buddy. I did not realize that. I played against him in the skirmish, and he was. It did not go well for me. He's pretty solid. Like,
Yeah, so he's actually the buddy I started the game with. It's easier to start a TCG when you have a friend who's like, you're like, hey, I'm interested in this game. Do you want to check it out with me?
mm-hmm.
And he's that buddy. So we kind of got in at the same time and tried to level up together essentially.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just said you're a Briar main in CC at least,
Yes.
we assume.
Yeah.
So why Rhinar for Blitz? Why Rhinar?
So Rhinar to me takes advantage of all of the things in Blitz as a format. So Rhinar's really good turns are 13 to 20 damage,
Mm-hmm.
pretty consistently. So that's an advantage because that's where the health totals start. And the second part is that Rhinar needs these really specific lines, like these kind of card combos, and the 40 card deck just allows you to hit multiple lines easily over and over again with the deck. Where it's not even I don't find too many offhands. If you're not going to get killed in one turn with Rhinar, you're probably going to win the game. Is how I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, let's go ahead and go through your deck list because let's all be honest. That's what the kids are here to see, right? So, give me just a sec here to get it pulled up. All right, it's like we don't know what we're doing. All right, so what I'll do is I will read through the deck list here, and then you can kind of interrupt me and point out any sexy stuff as we go down or any important includes. What I will say as we go through this, from a complete outsider to being a non-brute from the beginning, right? Like I was not interested in brute from the very beginning. This looks like a pretty standard brute list, which I think speaks to yourself a lot as a player. So, if for the viewers out there, you may be looking at this and be like, well, this doesn't look like anything special. And I think that actually speaks to the player here a lot. But on that, to that end, I'm curious what I'm not to be clear here, I'm not downplaying your teching. That's why I'm very curious as we go through this to hear what your teching is. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you look at this, you're like, this looks pretty standard. So I'm really curious as to how the ratios and everything
There
works,
are a
right?
couple of little spicy differences.
Exactly.
So yeah, I definitely can point those out.
Perfect. So 2 Alpha Rampage, that makes no sense. Explain. No, I'm kidding. All right, so 2 Alpha Rampage, we have 2 Barragings, we have 1 CNC. So why 1 CNC?
So 1 CNC because the threat is not as good as a lot of the others in the deck. Honestly, like it's easier to drop that for a very spicy card that I added to the deck near the bottom of the list.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's go ahead and forecast it. Go ahead and take us there. So what was the play there?
So I run Chief Rakutan. He did really well for me. I think at the skirmish, the extra Intim trigger hits the whole hand. Almost like if he's face up in Arsenal, you're going to be able to strip the whole hand and push as much damage as you want, or get all of their armor in one turn.
Okay, so we'll skip ahead to one of the questions I had then. So if you're going Chief Rakutan, or however you say it, why one of them? Because it feels like if that's your play, it's almost like a double down to me. So why did you end up on 1?
I don't want to lose the pitch. The deck
that's fair.
Yeah, the deck is very pitch focused.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. So it's basically just for lack of a better term, it's like a balls deep play, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a win more for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of how Brute rolls. So fair enough. 2 Massacres. I think that one's an obvious one. The only for those of you who are not Brute familiar, the only disadvantage of Massacre is that it has to be triggered off of an attack action. So if you do it off Bellows, it does not trigger. That is the only real drawback there. Otherwise, that card is very phenomenal. 2 Pack Hunt, straight up Intimidate. We have predatory assault. We have
Yeah,
one pulping. Oh, you intimidate. Okay, go ahead.
predatory assault is actually a little bit of a different pick. I think a lot of people when they play this deck prioritize Go again. They really love the Wild Ride. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple. I think Pulping does have Go again as well. I prefer the Dominate line. Predatory Assault on a Blood Rush turn is very good because you can basically, even if you leave them with 2 cards in hand after Intimidate triggers, they only can block with 1. I love
I see.
giving preference to the Dominate throughout the deck. That's why Pulping is so great too. Getting Dominate and Go again is always great in any deck, um, and it blocks better. I don't like 0 blocks in this deck, especially in a format where health is important, and if you have to take an off turn, I'd rather do it with blockable cards.
So,
than
Jacob, you were killing all of my questions that I have stocked up, ready to go about all the no blocks, and you already wild ride no blocks. This is gonna be like the shortest interview ever, my man. No, I'm just giving you. But no, that was a great answer. Exactly. I mean, that is a question. Let's go ahead and jump into it about there's Wild Ride, and then what's the newer one from the 2-player set? I forget what it is, but also a no block. And,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's like, why not those? I mean, that's just like go, brute, go, right? So why those versus the more defensive, quote
I
unquote?
actually find that with how card intensive Rhinar is, you don't get to utilize the Go Again that much without things like Tunic. That's more of a CC Rhinar thing because you want to have these huge like longer lines. I'm looking to just stack damage and hit you with a big attack. That's usually multiple barragings and your hand is gone.
All right, and fair enough. So to that end, I know we're definitely interrupting the list for the kids out there. But one of the conversations him and I had going into this was I had actually in the show notes I'd written an OTK, and he corrected me on that in that he believes it's not an OTK. It is what were your words exactly?
I said a 2-turn kill. And
2TK, yeah.
yeah, 2TK, 2TK.
But consecutive C2K C2TK consecutive 2-turn kill. There we go. I like that. We'll use that for the thumbnail. C2TK consecutive 2-turn kill. So I mean overall then what does that mean in terms of how you back it up? It's big strike followed by a less big strike, or is it
No, so
pseudo
it's
strike followed
actually
by a big strike, or how does it work?
it's two huge turns that kind of line up together. Either a nice 5-card hand into a 4-card hand, obviously like utilizing your arsenal. But what it's playing on is the fact that this deck has multiple lines that are really high damage. Whether they're a double barraging line, you have the Blood Rush Bellows double claw line. You have a Alpha Rampage barraging line, and then you also have the Sand Sketch Plan line. And so what happens is that since you have these kind of 4 powerful big damage lines, your consistency of drawing it is going to be over the course of the game is going to be very high. So you can usually do a 5-card hand that's gonna put your opponent at an off. They're going to be on the off foot, and if they can't kill you on that turn, you're going to return with so much damage that they can't. They're going to die. They're not going to have a hand, and even if they block with 1 card and all their armor, it's just not enough.
Sure. And then the theory being for your 2TK or your C2TK, whatever we want to call it, is that they can't do it twice.
Yeah, and then
Kassai throws 7 armor at it, but she can't do it twice. That's the logic.
Really, the my favorite Rhinar Brute card ever in existence is Reckless Swing. That card is amazing because you can force, like, let's say my 2-turn kill, my consecutive turn kill doesn't work out. I have a player who has a fridge, usually a warrior. They're just throwing all the armor in front of it. Then I just get to mid-range them out because I don't have any cards that don't block for 3. So my entire deck is just going to sit there and continue to blocking until I pull this Reckless Swing, and then you die.
I see.
Which a lot of players will try to play around, and they'll try to get to the 3 health. And then, with Alpha Rampage and 1 Barraging Beatdown, I'm threatening 12, 13 damage. And it doesn't, then you're going to have to commit your hand, and we're back in the same position. Like, this deck is so kind of abusive to hands and armor. It's just so perfect for Blitz.
No, I mean, well said. And I'll keep my Icelander question in check for after the deck, because I think we were on we were on Predatory Assault. My apologies. He's playing 1 Pulping, 2 Savage Feast, 2 Swing Big, because that card is freaking amazing. Into the yellows, we're going Barraging. Barraging Beatdown, Barraging Big Heart. When we say Barraging, everybody knows what we mean.
They know.
Yeah. Barraging Beatdown, Barraging Bighorn, Beasts Within, Blood Rush Bellows, which is like my favorite combo in all of Flesh and Blood. Savage Swing. That card's isn't that card cool? It's a cool card, right?
It really is. With the claws, it goes off.
Yeah. I mean, because it doesn't always go off too, right? It's like pure brute YOLO. I love it. Whatever. Savage Swing, Smash Instinct, and then Wrecker Romp. And then going into blue, we go into, that's right, Barraging, High Roller, Reckless Swing, which is way better than Steel Blade Shunt, but does the same kind of thing. Reckless Swing, Sand Sketch Plan, and Wrecker Romp. And then into the no pitch, Chief Rakutan. Going into the weapons, I did not denote this as a 2 of because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. He's running 2 claws. No club, right? Didn't bring club for anything?
No matchups in
just
club.
Straight in. Sweet. Strapping Deep Blue, I think that's a good call. Goliath Gauntlets, the gloves, the leathers, and the Skullhorn. So not a full sweep, right? For Blitz, you get the free equipment. Not a full sweep. You were just in where you are, or
I just I missed it for the day, honestly, and really I didn't find myself changing. I brought Deep Blue because I do love that card in this deck. But every matchup that I ended up facing, it felt stronger to just run Barkbone because I'm not really a gambler. I'm not really trying to abuse it to get the resources. I will only use Barkbone when I need 1 resource.
Got it.
So my odds in that are much more in favor. I'm not trying to milk the 2 resource or 3 resource, and even on the turns where I got them, it was wasted. Oh, I was just saying that with Barkbone, I usually ended up with extra resources that weren't I wasn't able to utilize them well. So I always thought that was better than losing an entire card to Deep Blue. Sometimes it's nice to gamble just a little bit, and it paid off. I think the lack of Null Rune definitely I think felt bad, but I think I prefer to race that in that matchup anyways instead of committing my whole hand to blocking.
Okay, so I think that fits well into my next question. I know we're totally off the script that I sent you, right? But Icelander was everywhere in our skirmish, right? And Icelander is, I feel, pretty oppressive in Blitz right now. So I thought it was really impressive that you were, I mean, that's why we're talking right now, is I thought it was really impressive you were able to do what you did. Because we had, 5 Icelanders, I think, out of 17 people? Is that about right?
It was heavily represented. And
so how did you do that?
It's not a matchup I knew a lot about or had a ton of practice into, but I approach it the same way I approach kind of every wizard matchup, which is put damage on the Chane, or in the brute case, you get to put an intim trigger on the Chane and kind of force them to make their decision points there while I still have a full hand. So in a lot of matchups, I think people overextend, and then the wizard can kind of take advantage of that. Whereas the brute is going to force an interaction usually on the first card. Usually, I'm intiming, so they don't want to lose their whole hand because they need it for pitch. So I'm able to.
Oh, interesting. So you're actually in most cases people let's say Kassai, for example, right? Kassai doesn't want to necessarily play her pumps because then she can get locked down. But what you're saying is that you're actually using your pumps to your advantage.
Yeah, the pumps can.
Interesting.
Barraging, it can force the interaction.
Interesting.
same with Blood Rush Bellows, right? Like since I'm getting the Imton trigger off of Rhinar, Icelander is forced at that moment to be like, okay, am I going to push my damage now? And if they do, they're ruining the Blood Rush line. I can usually let it hit, get a Frostbite, and pay through it with things like Deep Blue or Bark Bone because I haven't activated yet. And even off the Frostbite, I still feel pretty comfortable because I'm only ever going to pitch a blue for barraging, so I'll have the 2 floating resources to help pay for anything I need. It forces the decision points early. I will say that my one loss on the day was my buddy Dylan on Icelander, and he just played it. He just played it so well, and I kind of punted on a turn where I should have prioritized damage on the Chane by just putting an attack out, and instead I tried to pump using my barraging, the thing we're talking about right now, and he took advantage of the fact that I did not have the resources in hand. So when he did that, he had put frostbites onto me, and I couldn't pitch through them, and I ended up losing all tempo at that moment, like because he just pushed damage, made me sacrifice my whole hand to try to stay alive, and then he attacked on his turn, and it was arcane damage that I couldn't handle.
Interesting, but so your only loss on the day was to somebody from your own team. That's
Yep. Yeah.
Boy, you know what? I was going to give you an opportunity at the end to shout out your team, but you may as well go ahead and shout out your team because you guys are kicking butt and taking names lately. I know one of your guys from the team just won some money in a will. So
yeah, Team Galaxy Brain is out here. They're a great group of guys. I love talking about the game with them and learning a bunch. You know, definitely they brought me in when I was kind of earlier in the game, just really committed. You know, I showed I was committed, and it's a group of people who are very smart and talking about the game at a really high level and having fun with it. So.
Yeah, and we do want to give a shout out to our boy Archer, who just won some cash in PT Will. So nice job, man.
His draft performance at the PT was awesome. He was giving us the round by round, and it was impressive to hear.
Yeah, I mean he's a freaking smart dude. So well done, sir. So that is really interesting. I know I'm harping on this, but you know, what is your take? I know I just throw the script in the trash at this point, right? But Icelander and Blitz, what's your take on that long term? Because she seems pretty strong. Because Blitz is kind of Blitz in of itself is a combo format, right? And someone who can disrupt combos and slide damage through seems pretty good in a combo format. So what's your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's manageable because playing just based on the skirmish event, the life disadvantage is huge. So
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
If I go first as Rhinar, if I win the die roll essentially, then I can push up so much damage that they're on the back foot for the rest of the match, and even through disruption, you're putting up at minimum 6 damage every turn. They're going to have a hard time handling it. I think that it might force people to change the way we play the game, and I think we're going to see that in CC as well as Blitz from Icelander specifically, and how she's going to kind of force the game to slow down a little bit. I think really long chains, regardless of if they're attacks or non-attacks, like card-intensive decks are going to have to really rethink what's going on in the game without Prism. I think the game changes, and I think people learning Icelander and getting better with her. I think that deck's potential is just at its beginning. So I'm interested to see. I love playing aggro, and it does scare me. The Icelander, Oldhim future scares me a little bit until we figure out what we're going to do to get around it.
I think you're being political. It scares me more than a little bit, but yeah. Fair enough, man. Well, I mean, so yeah, we ran through the list. We ran through your performance. I mean, the reason you're here is I was honestly floored that a Rhinar was able to do what it did, and then especially when you sent me your list, I was like, this doesn't look like anything super sexy, and it must have just been a good dude piloting it. So
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I think I thought about the game differently going into the skirmish, and it kind of paid off. Um, I really just took my time, looked for the line. If I didn't have the line, I blocked, and when I had the line, it was the game. So it's just thinking on the optimization. Hand optimization has really been where my head's at with this game, and really trying to find the line and taking the patience, because I feel like I've punted so many games, and I'm sure everyone has. You play two cards in a sequence and you think that was it, and then you look down and you're like, oh, I could have got 4 more damage on the turn, or this line is actually not good and I should have blocked. And I think hopefully see the game change and people understand blocking better.
What's blocking? What's blocking?
Yeah, exactly. So blocking wins. Blocking helps you win this game.
Well, it's at least swinging back right now, right? It's like people realize that all of a sudden when Dash won, that blocking was a thing, right? And yeah. And then Lil was very, very, very different. So
yeah, the Lil top 8 kind of floored me. To see Briar that heavily represented was nice as a Briar man. I was very excited to see a stacked Briar meta, but I was also kind of shocked. I thought Viz was the deck to beat, honestly.
I also thought Viz was going to take down Lil. So we're aligned on that. All right, well, tell you what we're going to do. I have a follow-up question for you, but I'm going to finish the cast, and then we're going to do the follow-up question put at the end, because that's the way we're going to do it, because I just said we would. So do you have any other shout-out, aside from the Team Galaxy Brain guys, which you've already shouted out, any other shout-outs to give, anything like that?
Just the whole Portland community. Honestly, I think we have a great Flesh and Blood community here that is super supportive, and we can pick up games any night of the week. And the competition out here is pretty stiff. It's you can get good quick by playing really, really good players in the city. So, shouts out to Portland and the Pacific Northwest Flesh and Blood community. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout out, because I know that Justin the Salmon, Mr. Pink Hair himself, definitely did pretty good.
Yeah,
and Will.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he may not have been the one that took Prism across the line, but going, what was it, 7-0 in day one, right? Was it 7-0,
8-0? Or was it 8-0? Yeah, it was 8. He was undefeated first day.
Yeah, undefeated for whether it was 7 or 8. I apologize, I don't have it in front of me right now, but Homeboy did good.
Yeah.
No,
he's a scary Prism player. He's real good on that deck.
Yes, he is. So, all right, man. Well, we're going to finish up, and then I've got a follow-up question for you once we're done, if people want to stick around. So, anyway, I want to thank you very, very much for taking the time dealing with all the technical issues that took us like 15 minutes to get off the ground. And congrats on your big win. Oh, which playmat did you get? Did you go with Ashwing or did you go with Phoenix Flame?
I'm an aggro player all day, so I went Phoenix Flame.
There you go. That's my boy. All right, fair enough. All right, man. Well, you know what? You got to say it with me, man. Go Commando.
Go Commando.
All right, so for those of you who have stuck around, thank you. We were chit-chatting in between, and the question I wanted to ask this gentleman, based on the conversation we had that went through, was, Prism's gone. Where do we go from here? What do you think? And yes, we're talking CC, which is the question he asked immediately. What do you think?
I think that we are going to see a transition away from super go-wide decks.
Mm-hmm.
I think that James White even talked about that at PT Lil, about how the future of the game, they do want to slow down a little bit. So I think the future of the game is characters who really can utilize 3-card hands and block a little bit and return huge, or be disruptive. I think this future of this game is very disruptive, I guess is the easiest way to think about this. We have 3 ice characters now. They're probably only going to continue to get support so that we can have kind of 2 sides to this game. And I'll be happy to see it. I'll be happy to see super aggro people figure out ways to get around it. And I will love to see disruptive players figure out their lines and their opportunities to kind of destroy game plans and make people rethink the game. I think it's really awesome that we're going to get a future of this game that is based more around disruption and forcing people to deal with it. It just makes for a more interactive game, which is what makes this game so great.
Yeah, you know what? You're never coming back. That's a joke. You're never coming back because you keep stealing all my questions from me, man. But no, I mean that's exactly where I was going. Was the James White comment on our intention is to, because that's kind of a trap comment for the guy who owns the company to say, right? And I know I'm to be clear, I'm not quoting him directly, but what you said was correct. Is like the intent is to slow the game down. So if we look at the last year plus, right? I think that's fair at this point. Year plus of the game, it's been Chane, Starvo, Briar. I mean, maybe Prism's in there for sure because she just LL'd, but
it's
yeah. I mean, it's pretty aggro. So if their intent is to swing it slow, and they've clearly and they've clearly erred is a strong word, but they've clearly skewed on the aggro side. If he's coming and saying our intent is to slow it down, does that mean that it's going to be a control life for the next year and a half? Like, what are you like?
I mean, I really hope not. I think I've heard a lot of players bemoan how mid range has kind of disappeared from the game. And if you
certainly in Blitz, I mean, Blitz is binary, like zero question.
Yeah, there's no time for mid ranging.
Yeah.
It's a combo format. It's all about finding your combos and utilizing your big damage turns to win the game,
or fatiguing them out. I mean,
right? Just because you have less cards, right? So you can just hold off and destroy hands and get it down to nothing, no game plan left for anyone to return. But if you think of the game as like this rock paper scissors between which it hasn't been, but mid range, aggro, and control. If control gets better, mid-range gets better. And then if mid-range and control can't figure out how to handle aggro will stick around forever for some people to make choices and decisions. So I would love to see mid-range more a part of this game. I think that I would prefer it as a player. I would like to play some more mid-rangey decks. Dromai might be the deck to beat at the end of the year. We have no idea what Dynasty is going to bring us, but I feel like she has a couple of tools missing from her toolkit that we could get in this next set that will just make her just the best mid-range deck in the format. So,
dude, it's an interesting statement because while I don't think I agree, I agree and I disagree. I don't think Jeremiah is going to get any new dragons, and by that I mean big dragons. Like, I don't think she'll get any, kind of how Prism, like, I don't think she's getting any more heralds. Well, obviously she's not, I guess they already printed it before she's dead, but I don't think she's getting more heralds. I don't think we're going to see more dragons, but she's going to get some more tools, right?
Right. I think she'll get, hopefully, just some ways to keep her dragons alive.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, Oasis Respite will do that. Like, that card's phenomenal, right?
Right, and it's like cards like Frightmare. Like, why does that card exist? And I hope.
Oh, fair point.
I hope we can get cards in this next set that kind of explain what's going on with Ghostly Touch and Frightmare. These decks that I want you to pop my attacks. I think.
Well, that's an interesting point on Ghostly.
Right. Right, because you can start pitching and stacking this second deck, getting a bunch of your early attacks popped. Your opponent feels like that's a really smart move, but they're just losing damage from their deck, and you're staying alive. And then you have these huge threats from Ghostly Touch and Frightmare. That I don't think it's quite there yet, but hopefully this next set will bring us some spicy cards for the mid range, because I think that's how you accurately slow this game down, is you give mid range better tools.
You slow the game down by going to mid range. That's a pretty astute statement. Bold statement, but I think it's a pretty astute. Interesting. All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, any bold predictions? And this will be our firing shot before we get out of here, because I've got you here way longer than you committed to. Bold predictions for. Oh, are you going to San Jose? Am I going to see you at San Jose?
Yeah. I'm gonna go to San Jose. I'm putting it together right now, so I will see you there. I think it's an event not to miss. It's the first Worlds event for.
I mean, and we're in Portland. It's so close for Worlds. Like you can't knock. That was basically what I told my wife. I was like, "Look, hun, I'll do whatever I need to do, but it's so close."
Yeah, it's so close. It's the same way I couldn't say no to Vegas. Like,
Vegas has other connotations for a married man, right? I don't know if you're married or not. You don't, or partnered up. You don't have to answer that or whatever. But going to San Jose, it's so close.
That's much more chill. It's
right.
Close. I'm excited. I'm excited for Worlds. That's gonna be a blast.
Well, I'll just say, and then we'll get out of here because I know you've got a night to go do. But if we meet up, beer on me. Thank you for meeting up, and I appreciate the interview. I thought this was a great interview. So
I really appreciate talking.
We will say it again. We already said it once, but if nothing else, my friends, go Commando.